You've got someone that you care about and you've been hiding them. You have to ask yourself, who are you really protecting? But don't you have to protect them all from this new love because I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt the family. I don't want to hurt them with the idea that I might be something more than the relationship I had when I was married to the person who's no longer alive. No, there's a right and a wrong way to do this, but those things are both filled with a lot of gray area. Late spouse. Now, this is a controversial opinion because I understand there are other people out there that absolutely do not agree with me, but I will be the first one to stand my ground and say, hello, everyone. This is Sevilla I Love, and here we are on this channel, getting back to living and loving life again after a major life-altering loss, such as being widowed. And Otis and I are here to help. So hang on, because I've got some good topics for you today. Hey. All right, I'm going to put him down. He's farting. So a big question a lot of people ask when they're dating a widower or widower is, do they love you? If they still love their late spouse, even if they still are in love with their late spouse. Now, this is a controversial opinion because I understand there are other people out there that absolutely do not agree with me, but I will be the first one to stand my ground and say it is absolutely possible to love more than one person. And here's what I want you to hear about this love. If you've been on this channel for a while, or if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I believe very strongly as a woman, as a widow, as a psychotherapist, as a coach and consultant, as a spiritual guide for people, that love is infinite. And there is no limitations to the love one can have in this lifetime. The love that the person had for the spouse that's no longer here in physical form still exists. And to deny that that love still exists may only harm you and the other person. I'm speaking to both the person that's dating a widow or a widower and the widow or widower themselves. Okay. If we put limitations on ourselves in this life to say this is the only way it can be, then you limit growth. That's like a child saying, I can only get to 4 feet tall and no taller. Now, unless that's their genetic code, it's not true. They will grow taller, whether they like it or not. Okay. We can deny whatever reality we want to and live in whatever mindset we want to live into. But if you want to move forward in your life, or if you're contemplating whether or not it's possible for you, or if you're dating a widow or a widower and you're wondering if they can love you again, hang on, because I want to get a little deeper into this. I want to address a couple of insecurities that all of you may have, regardless of what side of the fence that you're on, whether you're the widow or whether you're dating the widower, doesn't matter. Here's something I want you to consider. If that spouse were still alive, they could not love you, could not be loving you. They could not have fallen in love with you. You would not have had the opportunity to fall in love with them. Therefore, the love that exists in this moment between the two of you is real. Okay, let me put this succinctly. If he were here or she were here, they could not love you. And they do love you. So that loving you means that they have accepted the loss of the spouse. But it doesn't mean that they've released the love for the spouse, nor should they. How could they release love because love is the only thing that's real. Love's an energy and it cannot be destroyed. It's not a limited resource. And if I may, love is the infinite creative force of all things, in all things, the essence of all things, both visible and invisible. It is what knits all things together, and it cannot be destroyed. Only form can be destroyed. So, asking them or expecting yourself to release that love in order to love another means that you're imagining love is a finite thing. What is unique and not finite is the relationship you had with the late spouse. That's unique. That is a love that was formed between the two of you in the time that you had, in the time that they were here. You may ask yourself, does that mean that if I love someone else, that I won't get to be with them when I cross over? And I'm going to share my opinion with you. And my opinion, based on a lifetime of spiritual studies, is that this love that you have for each other when you cross over, the bond will still be there. You will still know each other deeply, intimately. The influence you have over each other's souls because of the deep loving bond that you shared in this life will continue in the next one. But if you move on and love someone else, then what have you done in this life? You've created more love. Now, wouldn't that be amazing to share in more love? When you're free of the ego, when you're free of the story, when you're free of the imaginings of the limitations that petty jealousies put on us in this lifetime, because they're necessary for this life. We need to have one spouse so we can have a family and we can have structure and order and all of those things, because it's necessary for this lifetime. But in the next world, those things may not exist. Maybe only love exists. Maybe only the bond exists. Maybe only the relationship of familiarity and mutual spiritual advancement of the essence that is you and the other person. That only is what exists. And then if you love someone else in this lifetime and you all get together on the next side, wouldn't they maybe be happy to share in this love? And not in the way you would imagine it here, like some happy threesome, although some of you may no, we're not going there, but in a spiritual sense on the other side. Now, there's things that people do that shut down love, okay? And that's this sense of obligation towards the late spouse. I have to do this. I have to protect my friends or family or children, particularly adult children. Okay, small children are different, but adult, because they are grieving too. But what the kids don't understand often is that you guys are grieving different things. But adults, I have to protect them all from this new love because I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt the family. I don't want to hurt them with the idea that I might be something more than the relationship I had when I was married to the person who's no longer alive, no longer here to warm your bed and share your smiles and eat toast with you in the morning and get breadcrumbs in the butter. They're not here to share those things with you. They're not here to be able to support you in your illness, your sadness, your financial, personal hardships, your stressors at work, your worries about retirement. And that's heartbreaking. But is it fair for you to remain alone and suffer with that for the rest of your life when love, more love, which is what we're here to do? We're here to have more love in this lifetime, more love. And shutting yourself off from that by trying to protect all the people around you from this false sense of self. And I say false because it's no longer true, as painful as that may be to deal with. You're no longer that person because they're not here. And so the question for you as a widower, can you allow yourself to start to understand who you might be now in the context of just yourself, just you as a divine being, and have it in this body walking around, getting crumbs in the butter, petting a dog, wondering about your future? Could you allow yourself the possibility that love is something that you can lean into, and that it's not going to alienate you from any bond you have with your loved one on the other side? Because if you listen to any near-death experience story, any one that's got any substance to it, almost all of them will tell you the only thing that mattered was love. All I experienced was love, the most incredible, ecstatic love. And I was asked, how did you love? The good things that you do in life, the care, the compassion that you show, that's all that matters when you cross over. So bringing more love with you can only be a good thing. So if you're shutting out love, you've got someone that you care about, and you've been hiding them, you have to ask yourself, who are you really protecting? Because you only have this one life to live. And if you're actually protecting someone else, ask yourself, is this truly your job now? Unless you have small children. Again, I'm not talking about people with that. It's a different conversation. But for those of you with adult children, young adult children even, you want to be cautious, you want to be respectful, you want to be kind, and you also want to be clear first with yourself. You have to stand strong in your right to have a life because you're still here. In your right to have more love in this lifetime. And not to hide someone that you may actually deeply care about. Because there's no winning when you're not sitting with courage. Okay. And courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Now, this message isn't for people who've just been widowed, okay? This is not for acute grief when I talk here. This is for people who have some space between themselves and the loss, and they're really contemplating the future of their life. Okay, so if you're in your acute grief stage, which is for 6 months particularly, the first year, and sometimes the acute period for some people's first 3 years. So you have to be the judge of what that means for you. That's not for me to decide, that's for you to decide. I just want to verbalize that. If you allow yourself to be courageous, to own this life, to own your right to love again, and know that it's going to be different. It won't be the same. Do not compare. Comparison is the thief of joy. But if you're meeting up behind closed doors when no one else is going to see, if you're communicating when no one else is around, you're hiding that person. And that person could be the key to a great deal of happiness for you. So you are your own block here. Now, it might be an uncomfortable conversation to have with people. How do you do that? How do you start that process? Well, don't think you should just bring them over for Christmas dinner and say, surprise, here's my new boyfriend. Hey, kids, here's my new girlfriend. Happy birthday. We don't want to do that, okay? But start with introducing this new person to your friends, to your closest friends, or whatever close family to you that's accepting and warm and is supportive of your right to move forward. Start with them first, okay? And that's before you need to start going out in public with this person. And if you're afraid someone's going to see you in public, okay, you need to do some work. And that work might be if you can't take them to a public place for dinner or a walk in the park or whatever it is, then you've got to step back and do some more work. And that work looks like I'm going to have a conversation with my friends and family and let them know what I'm doing. Kids, I want you to know that I'm lonely and I don't want to spend the rest of my life alone. I loved your mother with everything I had. I nursed her to the last day that she left this earth. I loved her to the last minute she unexpectedly left us. And I'll always grieve her, always. And the love will not ever die, nor will my relationship to you change. But my world is changing, and I don't want to spend it alone. And so I want you to know that I'll be dating in the near future. I want to know how you feel about that. Okay. Ask them how they feel about it. Now, you don't have to let what they feel influence what you do, but you can, as a family member, give them the respect and space to hear what they have to say. Because a lot of kids feel like mom or dad are out there doing this, that, and they don't care what I think or feel or what my worries or fears are. So create some space for that. Hold it for them. Listen to what they have to say. Don't get defensive. Okay, that's important. Just listen and be careful not to, put it back on them. Just listen. Okay, this is a very mature thing to do. Ask them questions. Show your curiosity. And if they say, I just can't imagine you with anybody else, Dad, Mom, I can't even picture you having another guy in our house. Like, I just can't go there. Then just you let them know, okay, I understand. I hear you and I respect that. How can I be gentle with you in this process? Because you can expect I will be dating and continuing to live my life. And I also want to be respectful of you while I make the choices that I need to make for me. So if I find someone that I really care about, how would you like me to handle that with you? Are you ready to give me that information now, or would you like to think about it? Okay. So if you don't have someone you just need to introduce them like in the near, like tomorrow, give them time and space to consider what they could do and how they might feel about it. Because how they feel about it today may be very different and how they feel about it a year from now or 6 months from now, because maybe you're walking around on cloud nine and happy, and your kids see that and they go, wow, Dad's really happy. I haven't seen him this happy in a long time. He must have a girlfriend. Like, what's going on? Or mom has just been twinkling, like she's got this glow up. Can you believe what's she doing? She must have a boyfriend. They may or may not like it, but give them an opportunity to kind of see you in your response to living this new life and maybe engaging and having new love and adventures, but don't throw it in their face. Okay. Give them time and space to think about it if they don't have an answer right away. And also recognize that they may change their mind because they are grieving too. But what the kids don't understand often is that you guys are grieving different things. The kids are grieving the loss of their mother and the grandmother to the children and the grandfather to the children are like they're grieving different things if you have the adult kids. They don't know what it's like for you. When my mom was widowed, my dad died. I'm ashamed to say that I was not compassionate enough with my own mother. Now, I didn't, look at her askance, but in any means, but I didn't know what it might have felt like for her. And I found myself being impatient with her on occasion, maybe even a little irritated. I'll be honest, call myself out. No, not harshly so. I wasn't mean or unkind to her by any means. I had a good relationship with my mom and I loved her dearly, but I didn't know. And when I walked into the bedroom and I saw my mom sitting there on the bed alone and my dad was nowhere, it was something else. And I remember what that felt like for me. And I can imagine what that felt like for my mom at the time. Then my mom died 10 years after my father died. And then just over a year later, both my parents gone. I was widowed. And I didn't have mommy to turn to or daddy to give me a hug. My husband was gone. And I was alone with the 3.5-year-old. I didn't have these YouTube videos to help me out to make decisions and know what to do. So it was a rough ride. And so I bring all of those lessons and experiences, not just as a therapist, but as someone who's lived it, had a lot of loss, not just my parents and my husband, a lot of lots of others. So hear me when I say there's a right and a wrong way to do this, but those things are both filled with a lot of gray area. Okay, it's a range of right and it's a range of wrong, which might be wrong is you're hiding your partner and you haven't told anybody about them and you haven't brought them out to your friends or to your family. That's wrong. But now that you're thinking more about it, doesn't mean you did it intentionally wrong because maybe your intention in your heart was to protect people. And maybe you're still trying to protect yourself. Maybe you're trying to figure out who you are and you don't know what that's like to identify with another person as a partner. You say you don't know if you're ready yet. I say you're scared. Okay? Because not ready means that you don't have capacity. And I want to say you have capacity to love again. What you need to let go of is the fear and the guilt that you aren't allowed to love again. The guilt that you might, some people might be hurt because they are limited in their capacity about what love could look like for you for the rest of your life, or they're limited in what they believe love looks like you only love one and that's it. You should be alone and lonely for the rest of your life because if not, you're betraying your late spouse. And that's baloney. I don't care how old or how young you are or how many kids you have. You are the expert on your own life and you get to decide. And navigating other people's feelings about the choices you make are difficult. So your only responsibility within the right category is that you have to be honest with other people. You don't have to introduce your boyfriend or girlfriend to your adult kids if they're not ready to meet somebody. Don't push them on your kids yet. Okay? Don't push them. Introduce the concept to them. Then you live your life. Okay? Be respectful, be kind, be gentle, and live your life. That's the range of right and what that looks like for you. Because some people's kids are supportive. I mean, my mom had an old boyfriend from her young years that she was talking with on the internet after my dad died. And I said, Mom, why don't you go meet Jack? Go be with Jack. Because then Jack got widowed. I was like, Mom, go be with Jack. She says, No, I'm too old. I'm too bad. It's too late. And I broke my heart because I think they could have been happy together. And she wouldn't let it. I don't know how much chance there was. I didn't get the inside. They talked to each other and they kept each other company, and that was nice. But I was supportive of her and I would have accepted that. I think my brothers and sisters would. I see a lot of widows and widowers whose kids accept it. And I see a lot of them who don't. And those are the ones that have more trouble. And then one thing that people also have trouble with is the in-laws. They also want to protect the in-laws because if they're still around, they lost a child, an adult child, but they lost a child. And so the widower wants to protect them also. And I have to say there are people who also need to have a conversation with and ask them, how do you feel if I were to date again? If I met someone special, I can't imagine doing that, but if I did, like, what would that be like for you? So you find out in advance. Don't get all in your head imagining what other people are going to think and feel. Even if you think you know, go find out. So now you've got some real data to work with because working with the imagination is always going to be worse than what the reality is. Well, usually. Let's get surprised and it's the other way around. But at least you know what you're dealing with. If you don't know what you're dealing with, you can't make a solid plan to move forward with your future. Okay? So recognize how you're feeling, evaluate what you're willing to do, check your courage. And if you can't be courageous and stand up for your right to continue living your life, if you can't allow yourself to have that courageous conversation with the family, the friends, then what's the result is going to be you're going to hurt the person you're dating. You're going to use people for that little piece, that little rush of happiness that you'll get when you meet up with them in secret. But you're going to hurt them in the long run. And you're hurting yourself as well. Don't do that. Live your life. Doesn't matter how committed you are. But if you think that's somebody you could love if things were different, then make them different a little bit at a time. Start with the low-lying fruit to make changes. Now, if you're dating this widow or widower and they're not making any changes, you need to take note of that. Okay. And the changes look like I've let my family know that I'll be dating. They're letting you know how they feel. If I'm a little uncomfortable in public, it's because I'm still getting used to what this feels like. And I worry that if I run into somebody else, they're going to look at me some kind of way, and I don't know how I feel about that yet. I'm still adjusting. Let me tell you, this is not about you, Sandra, Joey. It's not about you. It's about me and this adjustment. I appreciate your patience. Is this okay? Can you sit with me in that if I look uncomfortable? I'm getting better. Okay. So you're not asking the other person to your date to be your therapist. Okay. But you need to know if they can ride this wave with you or not. If you're healing from an injury and they want you to go for a run and your leg's freaking broken, you're not compatible. Okay. You're not compatible. If they're going to be mad that you can't go for a run. But if you plan on sitting there with a broken leg for the rest of your life and you continue to re-break it like every 3 weeks, and you're definitely never going to be able to run, and you're going to be stuck in the house for the next foreseeable future, that's not worth it for them. That's not fair to them. Don't do that. So you give them actionable goals that you are reaching. And if you can reach those actionable goals, I told my kids, I'm cleaning out the closet. I've made space in my wife's robes no longer hanging in the bathroom. I've removed the wedding photos that were hanging in the house, and I've done something nice with them. Now, you may not want to remove, I'm not saying you have to, but if you want to bring another person into your life, you need to recognize the difference between still loving them and still living with them. Do you hear me? Still loving them and still living with them. And a new partner is not going to want to come into a house where you're still living with someone else. Okay? Not just loving, living with. And this is where you need to make the divide for yourself. And that means moving things around in the house, taking down photos that are tributes to your love together. Okay, I know there's family photos and there's all kinds of things. So you work this out together. You know, some people that are dating, they don't care at all. But certain types of pictures sometimes bother people. So you need to have that conversation. But first you decide for yourself. You make space in your life for them. Actionable steps, and you let them know. These are my actionable steps. These are the goals I'm reaching. And especially for the men. And I want to say this is why. Because if you don't have a plan, if you can't tell a woman, this is the plan, here's my goals, this is what I'm doing and accomplishing for myself first to make space for this new life of mine. This is how I'm rebuilding. If you can't give her that containment, that masculine containment of her seeing your vision, because she doesn't have to agree with the vision, but if she could see it and you offer it to her, that's going to give her some sense of safety and containment. She's going to say, okay, I can stick around for this because he's making changes. And you're letting her know, you're keeping her informed. Okay. And I say this from the masculine because you want to make the woman feel safe. A woman that doesn't feel safe with a man, psychologically, physically, emotionally, she's not going to be able to love you in the way you deserve to be loved. So you've got to provide that masculine container to her. Now, for women, you've got to be able to share vulnerably your feelings. You know, I feel nervous about going out to a restaurant and possibly bumping into my in-laws or my kids. I'm not sure what I want to do about that, but I'm working on my courage, and these are some of the things I'm doing to take care of that. So it's the same thing. You want to give the same thing to the man because he deserves that from you, but you're giving it for different reasons. Do you see what I'm saying? So he feels respected that you're thinking about him, that you're including him in your future possibilities. And he feels respected because he knows what you're doing to take care and make space for him as well. Okay? It's just this different hierarchy. Men need to feel respected in general first to feel love. And women need to feel safety first to feel loved. Now, he wants to feel safe too. He doesn't want to know you're going to run off with another guy. He wants to feel safe. And she wants to feel respected. So you exchange these things with a different intention. It's my suggestion. It's my opinion. So if you don't like it, you can throw it out. So let's wrap all of this up here. Okay, so you've got your responsibility to yourself first, responsibility to tell others what you're doing so you're not hiding. You're working on your courage, and that may come first. You make your plan. If you currently have somebody in your life that you've got behind closed doors, you haven't completely brought them out yet, then these are action steps that I recommend that you take because you won't know what kind of love you can have if you're hiding behind fear. Because everything you want, all of you, is on the other side of fear. So much love to all of you. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, and bye-bye. Say goodbye, Otis. Bye. Bye-bye.